It's time for another Dice Tower review with Z Garcia.
Hey everybody, today I'm taking a look at Valley of the Kings Afterlife. This one is a sequel to the original Valley of the Kings here, and I already liked the first one. It's a tiny little deck building game which had a couple of cool twists. It definitely had the main thing is that you, to score cards, had to sort of dump them out of your deck and stop using them to actually score it at the end. This new one keeps that, but it's basically all the cards are new. It's a new set, and the games can be combined to a certain degree. Let me show you how this game works, and then I'll tell you what I think of the new one here, Afterlife. So here's what the game might look like set up at the beginning. Each player has a starting deck of 10 cards that they shuffled up. You get a cheat sheet, and then you have this tomb card in which you're going to be burying cards to score at the end of the game. Game's going to be over when we run out this pyramid formation, which is replenished from this deck. And then at the end of the game, you're going to count up points, and the only thing that counts is anything you've buried. The rest of your deck does not count or score for you. And so each player draws 5 cards, which I'll just do from this one deck, but everybody has 5 cards in their hand. And then on your turn, you first play cards, then you discard, then you rebuild this pyramid, and then you draw a new hand of 5 cards. And so on your turn, when you play these cards, you can play them to buy cards from the pyramid, and you can only buy from the base, the cards that you start with, and really every other card have an amount of gold they offer you to buy further cards. All the starting ones give you a single gold. You can instead play the card and execute the action written on the card, or you can entomb a card, which means take the card, put it under your tomb card, and score it at the end of the game. Every card tells you on the bottom how it scores, but really there's only 2 ways of scoring. The card gives you a straight amount of points, which is these starter ones, for example. Each one is 1 victory point, and that's it. They're just a victory point. And some cards are part of sets, and they score based on how many cards from the set that are different you have. So these 3 are in the same set, for example, and if I have all 3 of these buried at the end of the game, then I'm going to get 3 squares. So 3 times 3, that set would be 9 points. That holds true for every set of cards in the game, okay? And so during my first round, I could say spend all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, discard them all, and buy this card. I know it costs 5 because it says so up here, and there's a power there which says entomb any number of starter cards. Normally, you can bury 1 card per turn, by the way. So I might buy this, and it would go in my discard pile. And now the pyramid crumbles, which means this falls into here, this falls into here. I can continue buying if I want to. Obviously, I'm out of cards. And so that would be the end of my turn, and now I would replenish the pyramid here at the top. And so every time this pyramid crumbles, because you buy, you can only buy from the base again, then things will fall towards it, and at the end of the round, you'll replenish it. If you buy the middle card, you get to pick which of these 2 comes down. And so this could go here, and this could go here. And then at the end of the round, I'll flip a new one in its place, okay? Once I'm done playing, I will then draw the next 5 cards. If I need to shuffle up, I'll do that, okay? And then it'll be the next player's turn. That's pretty much it. Obviously, very soon, once my deck runs out, I am going to take all of these cards and shuffle them all together. And then eventually I'll start drawing these better cards into my hand, which will give me not only better powers, but more money to buy further cards. These cards that are, shuffled into this deck at the beginning of the game come in basically 2 levels, and they tell you what level they are here in the lower corner. There's a little pyramid there with either a 2, or eventually there will be some with 3. An image of 3 little pyramids as well as the Roman numeral 3. And so these are better, they're pricier, they have better powers. And about halfway through this deck, they'll start showing up. All the ones you start with, by the way, are level 1 cards. And so that's basically the game. And then this player would go, they would draw their 5 cards, and they would, they could do things like, eventually anyway, this one says, swap 2 cards in the pyramid or sacrifice a card in the pyramid. Fine. I can, let's say I really want to buy this card. Well, I can swap this and this. And now spend the other 4 to buy this card, which costs 4. Buy that. This crumbles down here. This crumbles here. I end my turn. Flip a new card. Give myself 5 more cards. And by the way, there are supposed to be... you start already with the discard pile, which they call the sacrifice pile or whatever. And that's basically the game. You continue doing this once per turn. Again, you can bury a card, you can entomb a card, and some of the cards let you kind of do that a little faster, but you have to decide at some point whether you want to keep playing the card for the money or the ability, or just bury it and actually score it. At some point, you need to sort of switch gears and start doing that. Continue doing that until these are gone, until these are gone. By the way, if a card is not bought for an entire turn, basically, there isn't something bought, then the pyramid will still crumble. You have to remove something. And it's a way for the game to not stagnate at the, especially near the end where people want to start burying cards and they don't want this to run out. If you did not buy something, if you did not change the pyramid, you must still take something and make it go away. And so this deck will run out even if people stop buying cards and switch gears to burying cards. That's basically the game. Most victory points at the end of the game, which again come from the VPs on the bottom of the cards here. Having sets of cards together is good, and then some cards just give you straight up victory points, which are these purple ones. This one, for example, says unique, 3 victory points. Burying this, it's just 3 victory points. Burying these 2 times 2, 4. If it's a set of 3, 9, 4, 16, etc. Most victory points at the end of the game is the winner. So what do I like about this game? Well, I like the pyramid mechanism, which this game had. I like the entombing mechanism, which this game had. And the card powers are interesting, and yes, they're different. They're new sets, basically. I was honestly a little disappointed by the way in which the games are combined. Ultimately, you basically need to remove some of the sets in this one and then add some of the sets from this one, right? So anything you add in, you sort of have to remove from the other one to make it work well anyway. So yes, the new one, you have solitaire rules. You can play up to 6 now, which I don't really think you should play more than like 4. But I like the game. I'm not saying I dislike the game. I kind of see it as a little bit of a missed opportunity to take that system that the first one had and sort of blow it up. Really come up with something extraordinary that made you go, wow, I played the first one. This new one takes that game and turns it on its head, right? It doesn't do that. It's still good. I would still recommend it. But do you need both? I don't think you need both unless you really like one or the other, and then you want to experiment with the deck composition, making up the deck from which you'll fill that pyramid. Otherwise, really pick either one. They're both very good, and they got a neat couple of things going on. And my main concern, which is replayability, would be addressed if you then bought both and started, mixing and matching sets and all of that. Ultimately, a little bit let down by what the game introduces versus the old one, but it was a game I liked anyway, and seeing new cards, being able to, appeal to that wanting to break it apart and then put it back together again, mixing cards from both sets. If you're the kind of person who gets into that sort of thing, then you'll be happy getting both and just finding the sets you like, the color of the cards, the sets. So ultimately, thumbs up from me, Valley of the Kings Afterlife. I was hoping for more innovation. Instead, I got more of the same, but hey, in this case, more of the same is not bad at all. Valley of the Kings Afterlife.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.